Most people think power is something you hide, something you protect, something you guard carefully. But in reality, power is usually given away, quietly, accidentally, by the very people who believe they don't have any. And once it's given away, it almost never comes back. This matters right now because we live in a world obsessed with appearances, social media, personal brands, public confidence. Everyone looks powerful. Almost no one is. And the gap between how people look and how they actually operate is where real power moves. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Weak people don't lose power because they lack strength. They lose it because they reveal where it is. They point to it. They advertise it. They hand it over. And most of the time, they don't even realize they're doing it. Let's start with a simple idea. Power is not force, it's leverage. In economics, leverage means control over something someone else wants: money, time, attention, access. Whoever controls leverage controls the outcome. Now here's where the problem begins. Weak people don't understand leverage. They think power comes from being visible, being loud, being impressive, so they try to display it. But real power is rarely displayed. It's felt. Think about how banks work. A bank doesn't walk around announcing how much money it has. It doesn't brag. It doesn't argue. It simply sets terms, and everyone else adjusts. That's power. Now compare that to someone who constantly talks about how important they are, how busy they are, how influential they are. That's not power. That's advertising. And advertising exists only when demand is weak. Here's the first way weak people reveal power to others. They explain too much. Every explanation is a negotiation. Every justification is a discount. In markets, the seller who explains the most usually has the least pricing power. The same rule applies socially. The more you explain yourself, the more you tell others that approval matters to you. And once approval matters, leverage is gone. Now, let's make this uncomfortable. In 2023, the average person checked their phone over 140 times per day. That's not a productivity stat. That's a dependency stat. And dependency is visible. Weak people reveal their power by revealing their urgency. They reply instantly. They chase responses. They follow up repeatedly. What they're really saying is, I need this more than you do, and the person who needs it less controls it. That's not cruelty. That's economics. Now, let's talk about the illusion of confidence. Modern culture teaches people to project confidence, speak loudly, take space, dominate rooms. But dominance is not power, it's a performance. Real power happens when the performance stops. Real power doesn't raise its voice, it lowers its effort. Here's the irony. The more someone tries to look powerful, the more closely they're watched. The more closely they're watched, the more mistakes they make. The more mistakes they make, the more power leaks. It's the spotlight problem. In finance, the most stable firms are boring. They don't trend. They don't go viral. They compound quietly. The flashy ones collapse loudly. Weak people operate like flashy companies. They want attention. They want recognition. They want validation. And in exchange, they give away information. They talk about their plans, their strategies, their next moves. In markets, that's called front-running. If you reveal your position, someone else will take it. Now, let's zoom into something even more subtle. Weak people reveal power by oversharing. They tell you what scares them, what they want, what they're worried about. They think vulnerability builds connection. Sometimes it does, but it also builds a map of pressure points. In negotiation, whoever speaks first usually loses, not because silence is magical, but because information is asymmetric. The side that knows more can wait. The side that knows less must move. Now, here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. Weak people don't get exploited because others are evil. They get exploited because systems reward efficiency. And the most efficient path is always the path of least resistance. If someone shows you where the door is, you don't break the wall, you walk through the door. Weak people reveal power by removing friction. They make things easy, too easy. They offer discounts before being asked. They compromise before being challenged. They agree before thinking. They negotiate against themselves. In finance, this is called price discovery. The market tests your floor, and if you give it away, it never comes back up. Now, let's talk about hierarchy. Every human system has one. Companies, families, friend groups, online communities. Hierarchy isn't about morality, it's about control of resources, time, attention, opportunity. Weak people reveal power by acting like resources are infinite. They're always available, always reachable, always accommodating. Scarcity creates value, abundance destroys it. This is why the busiest people often command the most respect, not because they're busy, but because access to them is limited, and limitation creates leverage. Now, zoom out. Modern life trains people to be open, accessible, responsive, transparent. That sounds virtuous. It's not neutral. It's a power shift. When everyone is available, the rare unavailable person becomes dominant. When everyone shares, the quiet observer gains advantage. When everyone reacts, the one who waits decides. This is not manipulation, it's structure. Now, let's talk about the final and most damaging way weak people reveal power. They confuse activity with control. They move constantly, they message constantly, they adjust constantly. But motion is not authority. In economics, the most powerful institutions move the slowest. Central banks, regulators, governments. They don't react, they respond. And that delay is intentional. Delay creates gravity. People orbit what doesn't chase them. Now, here's the absurd part. Many weak people are actually the ones doing all the work. They produce, they build, they maintain, but they don't own the leverage. They built the machine, then handed over the keys, because they never protected the choke points. They never controlled access. They never controlled timing. They never controlled terms. They just kept moving, and motion looks like power until someone else stops you. Now, let's pull this together. Weak people don't lack power. They mismanage it. They leak it through urgency. They donate it through explanation. They surrender it through availability. They think being needed is power. It isn't. Being optional is. Because the person who can walk away controls the room. Not by force, not by threat, but by structure. So here's the unresolved question. In your world, in your work, in your relationships, who controls the leverage? And more importantly, have you already shown them where it is?